Do you know the name of the villain in this movie? Bane. The villain in The Dark Knight Rises is named Bane. B-A-N-E. What is the name of the venture capital firm that Romney ran and around which there's now this make-believe controversy? Bane. The movie has been in the works for a long time. The release date's been known, summer 2012, for a long time. Do you think that it is accidental that the name of the really vicious, fire-breathing, four-eyed, whatever it is, villain in this movie is named Bane?
In the dog days of the 2012 presidential campaign, right-wing talk show host Rush Limbaugh found something not just objectionable in The Dark Knight Rises, the new Batman movie. He found something conspiratorial. Specifically, he thought it was pretty fishy that the liberals in Hollywood had come up with some movie villain called Bane. Bane! Can you believe that? Exactly when Mitt Romney was running for president, and he had run a company called Bane. Oh, the liberal conspiracy! Except that Bane, the Batman villain, was created in 1993, and frankly, in 1993, Mitt Romney wasn't even registered as a Republican. But still, conspiracy! Someone invented a time machine to go back in history and make the Batman villain remind you of a Republican in the future, or something. I wish I could smoke whatever that man smokes. I don't have the Constitution for it, but anyway. Now, a year after the Bane conspiracy, the same thing is kind of happening again, but it's backwards this time. To the naked eye, these seem like ordinary, nice conservative ladies who are merely out to end the IRS, as you do. But these are not just ordinary, nice conservative ladies. These are the Sentinels of the Heritage Foundation. The Sentinels. And as Sentinels, they are honor-bound to the Heritage Foundation to hold Congress accountable to conservative principles. Right now, the Heritage Foundation has this group of activists that they call the Sentinels. And it has them visiting their local members of Congress, writing letters to the editor, calling talk radio, tweeting, posting on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. The Heritage Foundation wants an army of activists, and so it has formed the Sentinels to be their army. And when Heritage says Sentinel, they mean for you to imagine this colonial-era guy, right, which they put on their Sentinels logo. Kind of looks like a Minuteman, actually. But see, the Minuteman brand, that was already taken by the missile, and then by the anti-immigrant, hardcore conservative activists who go around on the weekend pretending they're the Border Patrol, even though they're not. So Minuteman was taken. Also, it's kind of gender specific. So the Heritage folks decided to go with the Sentinels instead. And it would be perfect, except for lots of people in America, the Sentinels have been a thing in pop culture since 1965, thanks to Marvel Comics. Come on, the Sentinels, among the greatest comic book villains in the history of comic book villains. The Sentinels are robots who decide to dominate humanity for our own good. We are the Sentinels. Our brain is superior to your brain. It's hard to believe that the Heritage Foundation didn't know this, didn't Google it. But the Sentinels are part of the X-Men series. It's not even an old, dusty, long-forgotten thing, right? The X-Men thing is kind of popular right now. You guys could look it up. Right now, they're designing the costumes for the evil Sentinels villains in the new X-Men movie. It comes out next year. Just the other day, very excited X-Men fans were passing around this picture of what the giant Sentinels costume might look like in the new movie. So this is what the Heritage Foundation wants you to think of when you think of the Sentinels. And this is what everybody already thinks of when we already do think of the Sentinels. Zap! Fry! Submit to my superior brain! This is the one where it says, in this issue, look, everybody dies. Hey, Heritage Foundation, these are the Sentinels. Run for your life. Heritage Foundation is turning out to be one of the more amazing things in this iteration of conservative politics we're living through right now. Ever since they hired Jim DeMint to be their president, Senator DeMint managed to breeze through 8 years in the U.S. Senate without a single landmark law to call his own. For a place that wants to style itself as a think tank, a policy shop, a research institution, Jim DeMint was a weird hire to be their president. But Heritage hired him and put him in charge. And in one of his first big acts as the boss, Heritage released a report on why the nation should not pass immigration reform. The argument was basically that immigrants are always on welfare. They take, because they're low achieving and uneducated and basically dumb. That report was presented to the nation as science. It was co-authored by a Heritage Foundation policy analyst named Jason Richwine, PhD, so science, right? Turned out that Jason Richwine, PhD, had done his doctoral dissertation on the idea that immigrants are dumb, that immigrants are just naturally not as smart as everyone else. And the brown people in particular are not only not as smart, they might be unable to get any smarter. This guy had been peddling his pseudo-quantitative version of a nonsense racist bumper sticker on white supremacist websites before he took his roadshow over to the Heritage Foundation, where they hired him and slapped his credential next to their Heritage Foundation logo and told conservatives how to vote. This is the Heritage Foundation, the nation's preeminent conservative think tank under Jim DeMint. This is the self-styled center of conservative thought in this country in 2013. Well, now they have this new project. They're trying to convince Republicans that everybody will be super okay with it if the Republicans shut down the government. Look at this. Heritage Action, submit to my superior brain. The Sentinels, right? The Heritage Action just released a new poll designed to make Republicans take the leap to shut down the government over Obamacare. Heritage is saying, trust us. House majority not at stake. It'll be fine if we shut down the government. And look, their unique take on this is getting pickup. Here's that same poll reported in Politico. Poll shows shutdown blame would be split. In the case of a potential government shutdown, less than a third of people would blame Republicans. The Washington Post had a slightly more accurate take. Quote, just how stupid does Heritage think Republican politicians are? The Heritage poll was a pseudo poll conducted by a conservative polling firm, essentially a push poll with loaded questions asked in mostly Republican districts in order to get the answer that Heritage wants. Here's an example of the way they asked the question. Check this out. This is how that Heritage poll asked respondents if they would support Republicans shutting down the government to defund Obamacare. This is how they worded the question. In order to get President Obama to agree to at least have a timeout on implementing the health care law and its full effects, would you approve or disapprove of a temporary slowdown in non-essential federal government operations, which still left all essential government services running? Slightly different from, do you support a government shutdown to defund Obamacare? The other aspect of this poll that Heritage has been trying to sell is that this poll represents America as a whole. This isn't just a poll of the Republican base. This is a representative of all Americans, right? So they explain that they polled people in 10 different congressional districts. And, okay, yes, 6 of those districts are currently represented by Republicans in the House, but 4 are represented by Democrats. So this poll, they're trying to say, is pretty broadly representative of Republican-leaning districts, but not safe Republican districts. Looking at one of those not safe Republican districts in that Heritage poll that will show us that bipartisan America would be totally cool with a government shutdown. Well, this is West Virginia's 3rd district. It's one of the districts in the poll that was held up as a not safe Republican district. The member of Congress from West Virginia's district here is in fact a Democrat, but look at how this district voted in the presidential election. They voted for Mitt Romney by more than 30%. This is North Carolina's 7th district, another one in the Heritage poll that was cited as an example of a non-safe Republican district. And yeah, they do have a Democratic member of Congress too, but they voted for Mitt Romney by 20% in the last election. So this is not random behavior, right? There's a logic to what the Republicans and the conservatives are doing here. It is just really deeply flawed logic. They didn't poll a representative sample of Americans, most of whom said, yeah, shut down the government. We won't blame you guys. Heritage presented it that way, but what they really did was poll super Republican districts that went for Mitt Romney by 20 points and 30 points. And in those districts, people push-polled with a leading question favoring a Republican idea, said, yeah, they liked the Republican idea. And this kind of nonsense is happening at the same time that the Republican Party is now openly musing about not wanting real news organizations to moderate any of their primary debates next time. Instead, they want their primary debates to be moderated by, hey, maybe Rush Limbaugh or Mark Levin, the talk show host, or anybody else who's explicitly interested in seeing Republicans have power. The communications director for the RNC was asked about this recently. He said, quote, Mark Levin should ask the questions. Reportedly, he went on to say that way that the grassroots conservatives would have a debate questioner who thinks like them. The same logic is at work here with the fake polling, which is that the Republicans are not trying to appeal to the country. They're not trying to compete in a way designed to win general elections. They just want to be elected prom king of right-wing senior high, right? They just want to make the base happy. They just want to get as pure as they possibly can. It is as if the Republican Party is constantly auditioning for the Rush Limbaugh audience. But the Heritage Foundation is giving advice about how to do it because they are experts on how conservative actions are perceived in America, which is why they just named their activist group after one of the most famous comic book villains of all time. Why is the conservative movement doing this right now? I do not know, but liberals are very psyched.